If you've ever stood in front of something in your house, you looked at it and said, I don't have a clue what to do with this. Is this clutter? Is it not clutter? This video is for you because the real question is not whether or not that thing is clutter. It's what role is it actually playing in my life? Everything in your home should have a reason. And by the end of this video, you're going to have a really clear process to decide what stays, what goes, and what needs a system without guilt, without trends, and without pressure. Let's get into it. How is it actually being used? This is the first filter that you have to have when you're looking at your stuff. And while it is a pretty simple question, it's not always easy to execute. A lot of people get stuck right here. And many times we think it's because we're attached to things, but often it's because we have never learned to evaluate those belongings from an objective lens. Most of us evaluate our stuff from emotion first. I cannot tell you how many times I have looked at something and I thought, well, I spent money on it, so I should keep it. Or somebody gave me this, or it represented a season of my life, so I should keep it. I might need it someday, so I should keep it. But it's very rare that we pause and we ask, what is the active role that this is playing in my life right now? And that's a very different question because when you look at something objectively, you are not asking what it means. You're asking what it does, which separates that sentiment from utility. You are stepping out of the story of it and into the reality of how that item either participates or doesn't participate in your current life. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not a place for sentimental and emotional items, and we're going to get there, but not everything requires the same level of emotional weight in order to justify its existence in your home. Some things are meaningful, some things are useful, but some things just haven't been examined yet, and those things just tend to accumulate. So that's where the first filter comes in. Before you can decide whether something stays or goes, you have to evaluate how it's functioning in your life. Not how it makes you feel, not what it cost or what it gave you, but what role is it actively playing? There is a big difference between preserving something intentionally and just delaying a decision. Preserving is going to sound like, I know exactly why this is here, whereas delaying is going to sound like, I'm not sure what to do, so I'm just going to keep it. When you delay enough decisions, your home starts holding all of these unresolved choices, which is clutter. And that's when things start to feel heavy, even if everything technically has a place. So here's where you slow down and you ask yourself, have I used this in the past year? Do I interact with it? Does it contribute to my daily life in any real way? Or do I just store it? Storage without intention will turn keepsakes into clutter. Now, if you find that you have things that are sitting in a box that you haven't dealt with in years, that doesn't automatically mean that it needs to go, but it does mean that you need to decide what role it's playing. If it doesn't have an active role, it's taking up space physically and mentally, and people who live with intention and who have homes that feel like peace and a place of freedom don't let things just float without a purpose. Once you've asked how something is being used, the next question is, what purpose is this serving? Now, everything you keep does not have to be used daily or weekly or even monthly, but everything you keep should have a reason. Most things fall into three broad categories. They are either functional, emotional, or aspirational. And we're going to take a moment to define what each one of those things is. Functional doesn't just mean, okay, I touched it this week. Functional things are ones that are actually supporting your current life. It solves a problem. It makes something easier. It is part of your routines. This includes the obvious things like kitchen tools, shoes that you wear, office supplies that you actually use, but it also includes some less obvious things like important paperwork, tax documents, medical records, reference materials. These are things that may live in a drawer or a file, and that's fine. But here's the key. If something is functional, it needs a system. Papers without a system turn into out of sight, out of mind clutter very quickly. If you've seen any of my videos about the 4 layers of clutter, this is that first layer of clutter, which is out of sight, out of mind. And it's usually the easiest to deal with because there is no emotional attachment to it. I'll link one of those videos below as a quick and easy reference for you to be able to come back to because it will help your understanding of this portion of different types of things. If you say something is important to you, but you cannot find it when you need it, then it's not functioning, it's just existing. Functional items earn their space through being useful, and they stay peaceful to us through having some system of organization. Emotional. Emotional items are tied to memory or identity or people. These could be things like photos, cards, heirlooms, children's artwork, items from seasons of life that you don't want to forget. And there is nothing wrong with keeping emotional items, but they do still need boundaries around them. If everything is sentimental, then nothing actually ends up getting distinguished. Going back to those 4 layers of clutter that I just mentioned, emotional items that become clutter are either going to fit in layer 2 of happy memories, where there are just good feelings surrounding these things, or layer 4 of it's so hard to say goodbye, where there is really deep and strong attachment. The goal here is not to erase your past, but to curate it. If something genuinely connects you to gratitude or love or meaning, far be it from me to tell you to get rid of it, but keep it intentionally. 1 or 2 memory boxes, a shelf, a binder. When emotional items are curated, they actually do feel like something valuable, but when they are scattered, they just leave you feeling overwhelmed. And then we get to the aspirational piece, which in my 4 layer system is where layer 3, or what I call my ideal self, lives. This is where a lot of people get stuck because aspirational items are tied to who you think you should be or might become. Clothes for the body that you are going to have, art supplies for all of this crafting that you're going to do, books that you will read when you have time, or business materials for a dream that you haven't yet acted on. Aspirational items are not automatically clutter, but they become clutter when they replace taking action. When you look at those items, the question can't be, can I use this someday? No, the question has to be, am I actively using this to build that life? Storing this idea of a future version of you can feel really productive, but it often keeps you stuck in fantasy instead of in movement. So if you're keeping the workout equipment, are you using it? If you are keeping the business planner, are you taking those steps? If you're keeping supplies, are you scheduling time to do that thing? If you find that the answer is no, it means that you are storing these things from a place of pressure and not from purpose. And again, everything that we have in our lives needs to have a purpose. So I want us to do a gentle alignment check, if you will. Functional things support your present. Emotional things intentionally honor your past, and aspirational things move you toward your future. If something is not doing one of those 3 things, I want you to ask why it's there. And be honest here, not harsh, not dramatic about it, just honest. Because the goal is not to strip your home bare, but to make sure what remains is actually aligned. What story are you leaving behind? This is the part that we don't talk about enough. If something happened to you tomorrow, would your family understand why these things mattered? Or would they feel overwhelmed trying to sort through all of it? I'm not saying that to make you sad or to think morbidly, but as stewards of our lives, we do have to think about what's next because none of us are taking any of this with us. Having to deal with all of my parents' things when they passed forced me to sit with that reality because when they were gone, everything felt important. Every box, every drawer, every stack of papers, every random item that I found tucked away, I wasn't just sorting through their belongings, I was sorting through pieces of them and through their lives. And without clear systems, without clear boundaries around what truly mattered, everything felt equally significant to me. I had a few ideas of things that they wanted and things that were keepsakes, but for the most part, I didn't really have a clue what to keep, what to let go of, what they would have wanted saved, what was there just because it had never been dealt with. And I remember thinking if they had been standing next to me, they probably would have said, girl, it's fine. You don't need to keep all of this stuff. Not because it didn't matter, but because they would not have wanted the weight of all of those decisions to fall entirely on me. Finally, getting to a place of healing from that, that's when this question started to form in my own life. Am I leaving behind meaning or am I leaving behind decisions someone else is going to have to make? Meaning is intentional and it's clear, but having to make decisions about stuff can leave your loved ones feeling scattered. And now that we know better, we don't want to do that. If something is deeply meaningful to you, that's beautiful. keep it, but in a meaningful way where it is organized and it tells the story of that item. Put the date on the back of the photo, write the note explaining why it mattered, create a memory box instead of just random everywhereness. Don't let your most meaningful things dissolve into these piles that feel confusing. Because, like I said before, when everything gets saved, nothing gets distinguished. And the people that love you deserve clarity, not chaos. While you don't really control how long you get to be here, you do have a say in what it is that you leave behind and how it will feel for the people who love you and who are going to walk through it. For me, there is also a spiritual tie-in. In the Bible, there is a scripture in Matthew that says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth." And it's not about living in deprivation, but about remembering that we're stewards, not owners. Everything here is temporary, and our hearts follow what it is that we treasure. So if all of my treasure is wrapped up in stuff, then my heart is going to feel anxious about losing those things. But if my treasure is anchored in things that are going to last, my faith, character, relationships, those are things that cannot be boxed up or taken away. So when I look at my stuff, I ask, is my heart anchored in these things, or am I managing these things wisely while I'm here? When your heart is anchored in what lasts, it becomes so much easier to release what doesn't. So what do we do next? This is where we make things very practical. What do I actually do with this stuff? As you're going through your stuff, you'll find that it fits in one of three different categories: clutter, not sure. Let's talk about clutter first. If it's clutter, release it. That could mean donating it or gifting it or recycling it or throwing it away. However you need to get rid of it, do that. Maybe take a picture to remember it if it helps you to let it go. I get a lot of comments where people ask, what should I do with this thing or that? And I can't tell you the value that something has for you, but what I can say is that you have to get to a point where you recognize that it's okay to release something that is no longer serving you. And getting rid of it doesn't have to be perfect. If you cannot find the perfect place to donate it to or give it to, throw it away. And I know for a lot of people, that is a shocking comment. It sounds very wasteful, but do not keep punishing yourself by making your home a landfill of poor decisions that you now have to live with, because eventually it's all going to get thrown away anyway. So give yourself freedom and let it be a learning experience. Let go of it and make better decisions about what it is that you bring into your home moving forward. If it's not clutter, create a system for it. If those cards or kids' artwork matter, put them in an intentional keepsake space. If that paperwork matters, organize it and put it somewhere that you can easily access. If that hobby matters, make time to do it. Clutter becomes clutter when it hangs around without any boundaries. Boundaries are what are going to create freedom and give clarity. Now, if you're unsure what to do, create a return system where you look at these things on a regular cadence. I've shared before that once a month, I revisit items that I wasn't sure about letting go before. Sometimes it just takes a little bit to have clarity around it, and maybe a month or two later, the answer is super clear. Some of those things end up staying, sometimes they go. Sometimes I realize that I was holding on to it out of some emotion that I wasn't yet ready to process, but looking at it gave me permission to start processing it. And the thing is, you don't need to rush clarity, but you do need to have a system that brings you back to the decision. You are allowed to decide, not based on these minimalism trends or someone else's rules or guilt, but you get to decide based on alignment. Does this serve your life, your peace, your values, your future? That's the question. And when you start asking it consistently, then your home starts to move in the direction and in alignment with where you want it to be. If this way of thinking resonates with you, where you recognize that it's not just about decluttering your house, but really decluttering your whole life, I invite you to join my mailing list. Every week I send out encouragement around exactly that: faith, freedom, clarity, living intentionally. It's also where I share some behind the scenes things that I'm working on that I don't always talk about here first. And I do have a few things that are in the works right now that I am really excited about. So if you want to stay in the doing things loop and want to be the first in line when those goodies go live, the link is below. So That's all. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and share it with somebody else who may need this as well. Also, if you're not subscribed, like, what are you doing? I'm gonna need you to jump on that. Oh my goodness. I love that little tagline, but I've had a few people who are like, why are you beating me up? Why are you being so judgy? And I promise you, it's not judgy. I love you, which is why I want you to put a ring on it. Alrighty, my friends. I love you so much, and I will see you in my next. Bye for now.